For 7 years, I was secretly married to Ilara. Our marriage was a private fact, hidden from our colleagues at the hospital where we both worked. She had just recently been promoted to the position of director, a significant step up in her career. Around the hospital, there were constant whispers and gossip that a male orthopedic doctor, Marcus, was actually her husband, and she never made any effort to deny these rumors. This secrecy had consequences for me. She repeatedly blocked my own opportunities for promotion, and I was consistently assigned the most difficult and exhausting jobs in the department. At the celebration party for her new position, she and Marcus were together the entire time, even sharing a drink in a way that looked intimate to everyone watching. My breaking point came when I collapsed in the operating room. My body just gave out, and my colleagues had to use CPR and a defibrillator to bring me back. As I learned later, at the exact same time I was fighting for my life, Ilara and Marcus were discovered in a compromising situation during a routine DUI check by the police. During those 4 critical minutes, I was balanced on the very edge of death. When Ilara finally rushed over to see me after I was stabilized, the doctor on duty, Chloe, asked her directly, "Are you his emergency contact?" Before Ilara could answer, I found the strength to speak. "No," I said, my voice surprisingly calm. "I barely know her." That day had been relentless. I was performing surgery on an elderly patient and had been standing since the early morning. The circulating nurse who was supposed to be there had called in sick, so I was pulled in at the last minute to cover. My shift started at 6:00 a.m. and didn't end until 9:00 p.m. The only thing I had consumed in all those hours was a single bag of glucose. After the surgery was finally complete, I dragged my exhausted legs out of the operating room, and then my entire world went dark. I have a vague memory of seeing my colleagues rushing toward me, their faces filled with panic. My only coherent thought as I lost consciousness was, "Ilara, you can't hide this anymore." I could faintly hear them shouting my name, "Leo! Leo, get the defibrillator!" My heart wasn't responding to the CPR. Chloe's voice cut through the fog. "Is Ilara's phone ringing?" With an emergency this serious, of course, they would try to contact her. That afternoon, the hospital was holding a celebration party for a new research project. It was also a big event for Marcus, the youngest orthopedic doctor. It was his first time participating in the pharmaceutical research group, and he had apparently done very well, so a party was thrown. Anyone who wasn't currently in surgery was expected to attend. I heard someone whisper, "I can't reach her. Ilara isn't answering." Another person replied, "Call Marcus then. At this point, who cares? Just get one of them to answer." Even as I lay there, unable to move, I felt a deep sense of bitterness wash over me. Ilara and I had started at this hospital at the same time, right after our residencies. We kept our relationship a secret because of hospital policies that were against spouses working in the same department. I had agreed to hide our marriage, never imagining that the secret would last for 7 long years. For more than a year now, she and Marcus had been practically inseparable. Even when they were just in the cafeteria, they would sit together, laughing and talking. The rumors became so widespread that even the cleaning lady asked me one day, "I heard Director Ilara is married. Is it to Dr. Marcus?" Ilara never denied it, letting the gossip spread like wildfire. Right before I went into that final surgery, I had glanced at the photos from the celebration that were already being shared. There was one of Marcus, smiling as he held a glass of wine to her lips, and she was smiling back so widely that the crow's feet by her eyes were visible. This struck me because she had always been adamant about not drinking. She once told me that a surgeon should never drink, not even a little. Chloe's voice was still echoing in my ears, asking who my emergency contact was. My phone, which was in my pocket, started vibrating. On the screen, the word wife flashed repeatedly. My colleague Sam noticed it, pulled my phone out, and answered the call. But the voice on the other end was unfamiliar. "Are you Alara's family?" a man asked. "This is the traffic police." Sam looked confused and handed the phone to Chloe. "The traffic police say Alara isn't cooperating with a DUI test," Chloe announced. "Alara? Why would they call Leo's phone?" Someone must have noticed the wife display on my phone screen when it was ringing. The room fell into a very strange and eerie silence. The officer's voice was clear enough for several people to hear. "They're at the station now. A family member should come down." Chloe hesitated for a moment, then said into the phone, "That's impossible. He's currently undergoing resuscitation for a heart attack." The line went quiet, and after a moment, the officer hung up. During those critical 4 minutes, my colleagues managed to save my life. As they monitored my heartbeat in the hospital room, my awareness gradually returned. Sam was dripping with sweat, and his hands were shaking slightly. "Leo, get some rest," he said. "I'll stay with you tonight." I couldn't speak. I felt like all my strength had been drained away. The cold fluid coursing through my veins made me drowsy, but my hearing was sharp in the still hospital room. Outside in the hallway, I could hear the young nurses whispering. "My friend said Alara and a man were caught in a car, and their clothes were all disheveled. It must be Marcus, right? They left the celebration together?" Tears escaped from my eyes, and I wished I had misheard them. But over the past year, there had been so many moments of disappointment. I was reminded of my birthday, last year. Alara came home very late that night, looking exhausted. She handed me a nicely decorated box and said, "Happy birthday." When she leaned in closer to give me a kiss, I noticed a faint trace of men's hair wax right by her ear. The scent was distinct, and it made my lips feel cold. I was stunned for a moment. At the hospital, Marcus was always dressed perfectly, his hair always styled. No one else put that much effort into their appearance. He was arrogant, but Alara found him charismatic. She was always praising him, calling him the finest doctor in the hospital. "Look at how confident he is," she would say. "What patient wouldn't trust him?" It was no wonder people thought they were married. She never missed an opportunity to favor him publicly. I slowly closed my eyes. The urge to leave her felt stronger than it ever had before. Alara finally rushed in at dawn, swinging the door open wide. Behind her were the on-duty doctor and nurses, and also Marcus. He stood there in perfectly tailored pants and a clean shirt, his gaze distant as he cast a wary look in my direction. Alara's face was covered in sweat, and she was frowning, her skirt all wrinkled. Her steps seemed unsteady, and her eyes were full of a mix of emotions. I just glanced away from her, feeling nothing but cold snowflakes falling inside me. It reminded me of a time in winter when she walked through the snow, and I silently followed her. I had seen this worried look on her face countless times, but it felt completely different now. Back in medical school, I used to faint sometimes because of low blood sugar. When that happened, she would dash down 5 flights of stairs to find me, her eyes filled with genuine worry and care. Our classmate Joan used to tease her, asking, "Why are you studying medicine? With your speed, you should run track." I saw that exact same concern in her eyes once again, but it was when a hysterical patient accidentally injured Marcus. His arm was hurt, and she rushed to his side just like this, hurriedly supporting him as she took him to the treatment room. The nurses whispered behind her back, "I've never seen the director so flustered." Now she seemed flustered again, her eyes locking onto me as soon as she entered. But I couldn't tell if she was worried about me or about something else. She leaned close to me, saying my name. Leo. I turned my head away. The faint breath of alcohol on her made me feel nauseous. Chloe walked in from outside, holding a signed brain scan form. "Make way," she said. She glanced at the data on my monitor and then looked straight at Alara. "Are you his emergency contact?" Her tone had a clear hint of mockery. For all these years, I had been the go-to person at the nurses' station. Wherever I was needed, that's where I would go, doing all the toughest and dirtiest jobs while other people got promotions. Even Chloe couldn't stand it last time and had offered to help adjust my position. Without even thinking about it, Alara refused. "If everyone gets promoted," she had said, "who will be left to guide the newcomers?" Now, faced with Chloe's question, she looked a bit embarrassed. Just as she was about to nod her head, I turned my head away from her. My tone was unusually calm. "No," I said. "We're not close." Alara didn't seem to notice anything unusual about my behavior. She just glanced my way, and then signed the form. "He doesn't have any underlying conditions," she said, "but it's best to check thoroughly." Chloe walked out with an expressionless face. At the door, as if she was doing it on purpose, she suddenly spoke up. "Everyone can leave the ER. Marcus too. We don't need orthopedics for this." Marcus's originally stern face turned pale. He pressed his lips together and gave me a deep look before turning to leave. Alara rolled up her sleeves and sat down with a sigh of relief, adjusting the sheets on my bed. "Sam, you can go handle your tasks. I've got this." Even I had to admire her composure, her ability to stay calm under so much pressure. By tomorrow, the entire hospital would know that she and I were actually married. She had been lying for 7 years and never thought it would be exposed like this. Sam's expression was indifferent. As he walked out and closed the door, he said, "Leo, if you need anything, just call me. I won't go far." With just Alara and me left in the room, she glanced again at the monitoring data. She began speaking, sounding like she was explaining herself, but she never looked at me. "I drank too much and dozed off for a bit in the car. I didn't hear the phone." I stayed silent. My throat was dry and painful, as if it were cut by blades. She hesitated, then continued. "The car was parked on the side of the road. I was in the passenger seat. There was no drunk driving." Her voice got weaker, less confident. I slowly spoke. "I'm not the traffic police." She paused. "Leo, it's not what you think." I almost wanted to laugh, even though I wasn't thinking anything at all. In those 4 minutes, I had crossed the line between life and death, and it seemed I had also crossed my last hope for her. Lying there for hours, my mind replayed the endless hardship of these past years, all the time spent watching the clock during vacations, each one marked by her absence. Her medical skills and ethics had won her praise, allowing her to climb the ranks. When she became an attending physician, the former director relocated, and the hospital policies changed. But she said, "Publishing this immediately would feel too deliberate right after he's gone." Later, when she was contending for deputy director and then director, I couldn't bring myself to mention going public with our marriage. I didn't bring it up, so she just assumed it wasn't important to me. Now she seemed relieved. Well, they'll all know eventually. Even when I was teetering on the edge of life or death, she still wasn't thinking about me. I was hospitalized for a week, and Alara stayed by my side the whole time. At her request, I underwent chest pain exams and ECGs, all of them thorough. For all the tests, she followed closely, appearing attentive and caring. I also heard from Sam that Marcus had taken a leave of absence. After all the test results showed no abnormalities, I was moved to a regular ward. Once I was settled, Ilara stood up. "I'm going to see Chloe." She leaned over and lowered her voice. "Don't overthink things. I need to visit her for both business and personal reasons." She explained that Marcus had hinted at having feelings for her earlier, and she blamed herself for not responding to him directly. "A rare find," she said. "Someone useful we finally cultivated in orthopedics." Her explanation seemed more like she was trying to convince herself than me. I just watched her indecisiveness and hesitation with a blank expression. Finally, she seemed to make up her mind. "I'm going to see him and clear things up." When she leaned in to kiss me, I turned away with a cold face. She froze. "Leo, there are so many unavoidable things in my position. You need to understand." I nodded. "After leaving the hospital, I'll resign." She was silent for a moment. "Okay. Your health isn't suited for overworking anyway." I continued. "Before resigning, I have 2 years' worth of 28 days of leave to take first." She hesitated. "Now everyone knows we're married. If you're resigning, why take the leave?" I looked at her. "Then let's get divorced, before I resign." I said it calmly, and as I did, I finally felt a weight lift off me. Her face went pale. She straightened up, looking at me in disbelief. "What did you say?" "Divorce, Ilara." She tightened her grip on her car keys, her cheeks tensing. "Stop it. That's a joke for old couples to play." I curled my lips into a smile. "We won't be one for much longer. Go visit your patient. You can sign when you return." She hastily tossed back, "I don't agree." With a cold face, she left without the slightest hesitation. Calmly, I got up and slowly pulled out my IV, heading downstairs to be discharged. I changed into my plain clothes and packed my things at the nurse's station. Sam was there, his eyes red. He looked at me and asked, "Leo, are you really resigning?" I didn't answer him. I just smiled and handed him a backup bag. "Keep it as a memento." I was waiting for a car at the hospital entrance when Chloe hurried over in her lab coat. She looked me up and down, frowning. "Taking a break to be a stay-at-home husband?" I chuckled. "I still haven't thanked you for saving my life." She scratched her head, then suddenly asked, "Remember the old guy from surgery that day?" She said he was a retired leader from the province. He had heard about me collapsing outside the operating room and had sent people twice to check on me. She fished a note from her pocket and handed it to me. "When you get out, at least contact him. Give the old man some peace of mind." And I took the note, put it in my bag, said nothing more, and got into the car. From the day I graduated, I've been so busy that suddenly having dozens of days of vacation left me feeling a bit lost. While I was packing at home, my phone kept ringing. Staring at the 2 characters for Ilara jumping on the screen, I felt nothing. It's like after you go through life and death, everything about love and sadness seems insignificant. I pulled out an old divorce agreement I had drafted a long time ago and signed my name. I placed it on the dining table, turned around with my backpack, and dragged my suitcase as I left. I closed the door behind me, feeling like I was leaving behind years of feelings for Ilara. I hung up the call, which came repeatedly from her. I only sent her 2 messages. "Sign the divorce papers," and "I don't want this to go to court. Without Marcus, you wouldn't have become the dean. Everyone knows it." Ever since Ilara invited Marcus to join the hospital, I knew something was up. She had been stuck as vice dean for ages, missing a right-hand man and the connections to pave the way. I had seen Marcus's paper in a medical journal. The mentor listed on it was none other than the famous Professor Calvin. If you looked a bit deeper, the family ties were pretty obvious. Ilara's ambitions have always been in plain sight. She never clarified her relationship with Marcus. Maybe she just let people assume. I was always the odd man out. I booked a flight back to my small hometown up north. My elderly parents are afraid of flying, so long journeys aren't ideal for them. I haven't been home in years. I kept saving my leave, but every time I planned to take it, Ilara would block me. She always had an excuse. I can't step away right now. Just wait. Now that our ties were severed, there was no more waiting. The plane landed late at night. My mom sleepily opened the door and cried as soon as she saw me. My dad shuffled into the kitchen, wiping tears as he went. I lay on my childhood bed, exhausted but clear-headed. Marrying far away was a gamble. Sharing the ups and downs was another. I gambled fully, and I lost with acceptance. The bustling morning markets in the northern town and the gentle falling snow made me feel at peace. Except Sam kept messaging me. I know Marcus returned to the department after I was discharged, always looking stern. I heard he's come out of Ilara's office with red eyes a few times, so seeing a friend request from Sam didn't surprise me at all. I declined it, but he went ahead and called me. "Leo, she's not going to ask you back. Let it go." I know. Ilara just messages me the same thing every day. "Leo, now's not the time to get divorced." 10 days later, I was on a train to Tibet. My parents couldn't help but shed tears as they dropped me off at the station. My usually stoic dad patted my shoulder. "You didn't do anything wrong. No need to reflect or be sad." I nodded, smiling with my eyes squinted in a grin, and waved goodbye as I went through the gate. The scenery passed serenely by the window, and I snapped photos frequently. My social media feed became almost like a travel diary. Chloe liked every post, often commenting, "A couple of tears of envy. Another day in front of the operating table for me." Ilara wasn't even my pinned chat anymore. Her messages got buried under endless shares from colleagues. They were always the same simple 4 words. "Take care of yourself." She called once, her voice shaky with the wind. "Leo, I dreamt about you during my nap." Calmly, I looked at the distant snowy mountains and at the bells swaying nearby in the breeze. Her voice and her words felt so foreign to me now. "Remember how we said we'd go there together back in med school?" We had many chances to travel together, but she always prioritized her career. Hesitantly, she said, "We haven't even had our wedding." We were too broke after graduation. We excitedly went to get the marriage license instead. We promised to have a grand wedding later, with a diamond ring to replace the soda can tab ring I gave her. 7 years have passed. I'm finally at peace with her betrayal. She sighed deeply, apologizing. "It's all my fault." "Yes, it is." She seemed stunned, taking a moment to reply softly, "I've signed the papers." A weight lifted off my heart. I chuckled with relief. Then here's to Ilara's bright future and career success. There was no reply from her, just heavy breathing over the phone. I vaguely heard a door open and Marcus's cheerful voice in the background. "Dad said we're getting married next month." Ilara hurriedly hung up. I chuckled and deleted her contact. As I pressed delete, a message from her flashed and disappeared before I could read it. A few days later, by a lively bonfire, I got an e-invitation from Marcus. No need to attend, just sharing my happiness. The invite was a photo of them snuggled together. Ilara's lips were pressed tight, her gaze elsewhere. I left after my leave was up, and went back to the hospital to resign. Chloe leaned against the door with her hands in her pockets, watching me pack my things into a big box. She coughed tactically. "Mr. Harrison wants you to see him." I asked offhand, "Which Mr. Harrison?" She yanked me by the collar and dragged me to a single ward in the inpatient department. When we entered, everyone turned their heads towards me. The elderly man on the hospital bed smiled kindly. Then it hit me. Chloe had mentioned this was the man who had surgery the day I fainted. I nervously greeted him. The tall, middle-aged man beside him spoke up. "Leo, did you finish resigning? Are you interested in being a private nurse?" Before I could refuse, he glanced quickly at the elder on the bed. "Name your terms. I bet you need a good job." Chloe nudged me discreetly. I quickly realized this could be an opportunity for me. 3 days later, I stood by the hospital entrance as a private nurse. Elara was flattering Mr. Harrison as she sent him off. Spying me, she looked slightly taken aback. Mr. Harrison smiled warmly at me, then looked back at Elara. "Anything you need, let Leo know first," he implied. "Follow the doctor's orders, listen to him." That night, an unfamiliar number called. Elara's voice was notably weary. "Leo, what's going on?" I was honest. "I got a new job. You know the ward he's in, the visitors he gets. He's not ordinary." I couldn't help but laugh. "To me, he's just a patient." I didn't let her continue lecturing. I just hung up. I got to meet Mr. Harrison's son, a middle-aged man who works at a medical research institute. He handed me an access card and casually squashed my curiosity. "You were the main caregiver when my dad was in the hospital, right? He praised you a lot." Mr. Harrison's son is in the same field as me, and we're about the same age. He said, "My younger brother passed away from a sudden illness a few years back. Dad used to listen to him the most. He advised me to take care of Mr. Harrison just like I did at the hospital." He added, "I've noticed he's just like an old child now. Your words carry more weight than the doctor's." But he didn't tell me that Mr. Harrison loves eating melons. Elara, with Marcus on her arm, came over to personally invite Mr. Harrison to their wedding. I was handing over medicine. Putting down the glass, I held it out to Mr. Harrison. He grimaced. "I'll take it later." I told him sternly, "You're already half an hour late." Elara, in between, was saying, "Mr. Harrison, how about next week?" Marcus watched me with a haughty look. I pretended I didn't notice and carried on, since he wasn't really part of my circle. Mr. Harrison sighed, resigned, and popped the medicine into his mouth. After swallowing, he spoke slowly. "Leo, are you going?" I instantly widened my eyes. Now is not the time to ask me that. Mr. Harrison's eyes darted between Marcus and me, grinning like an old fox. "Elara, this is your second marriage, right?" Elara looked suddenly awkward, sweat forming on her forehead. "Mr. Harrison?" Mr. Harrison stopped smiling. "Having a wedding for a second marriage? Aren't you afraid of being laughed at?" He wobbly stood up, and I quickly supported his arm. He looked back at Marcus. "Your dad's old and confused, agreeing to such a match." Mr. Harrison didn't agree, but he didn't say no either. After work, the driver dropped me at the alley's entrance. From afar, I saw Elara leaning on her car. Who knows how long she'd been waiting. I walked past with a cold face, not intending to stop. She hesitantly followed. "Leo, could you persuade Mr. Harrison to come?" She couldn't even finish her own sentence, but was looking at me expectantly. I stopped. "I'm just a caregiver, Elara. You're asking too much." She instinctively reached out for me, but I dodged her touch immediately. Her hand stiffened, Her expression darkened. Marcus has invited quite a few people. Though Mr. Harrison has retired, he still has connections and influence, networking, maintaining relationships, having someone to rely on. I couldn't help but find it amusing. Even her wedding had an agenda. I accidentally looked up at her. "Alara, you're already the director. How much higher do you need to climb?" She clearly understood my implication, her face weary. "You don't get it. At this level, I can't afford mistakes. I have to cover all my bases. Having strong backers is always beneficial." She hesitated. At first, Mr. Harrison was giving me some respect, but now, I don't know. She quickly glanced at me, but didn't finish. I let out a dry laugh. "Alara, you think too highly of me. What could a little nurse like me change?" With that, I turned to leave. She raised her voice suddenly. "I know you hate me, but if I don't climb, others will trample me." Her voice sounded a bit desolate. "We're the same. We came from ordinary backgrounds, studied hard for years. What chance do we have without fighting for it? What's love worth, Leo? Us staying together won't make things better." I didn't look back at her. Her words from years ago in medical school rang in my ears. Just being a good doctor with a clear conscience should be enough. But it isn't. Her desire is insatiable. She was right. Love is useless to her. It's intangible, not a stepping stone for her success. Chloe quit. When she came to see me, she looked relaxed. She was a major player in the key department and a future candidate for the deputy director. I looked at her in surprise, and she shrugged. "Not exactly quitting without a plan. I've secured a position at the provincial hospital, starting next month." It's indeed a better spot, but I distinctly remember her saying she didn't like the atmosphere there. She noticed my doubt and took a couple of steps forward, lowering her voice. "Leo, I'm only telling you this." She said to consider it bad luck, or a stroke of luck. Exhausted from surgery, she fell asleep leaning against the medicine cabinet in the pharmacy, and she overheard the pharmacists whispering, "The hospital's going to face a storm, and if I stay, I might be the scapegoat." The gaps in the drug procurement and funding paths were unimaginable. Chloe patted my shoulder with a smile. "Not that it's right to say, but your divorce timing was spot on." She mentioned taking a break to travel. "You have no idea how jealous those workaholics were of you recently." Shortly after she left, Alara visited twice. Mr. Harrison avoided her and subtly told me, "Better to meet Alara less privately, just to avoid suspicion." I didn't ask much, but even a fool could sense a storm brewing. The only one likely immersed in happiness might be Marcus. Sam would vent occasionally. He sticks to Alara like glue, not caring who sees. I couldn't care less, just listening out of necessity. A large number of people come to see Mr. Harrison daily. I had to keep an eye on him, ensuring he didn't sneak a drink or two when I wasn't looking. Each time I stopped him, he'd laugh it off. Pointing at me, he'd tell visitors, "Once I'm all better, take him to work at your hospital." I knew he was trying to secure a future for me. After all, I couldn't be a caregiver forever. Before I knew it, the night before the wedding arrived. Before bed, I received a message from Alara. "Actually, hiding it isn't so bad. At least you are still my husband." I chuckled, resisting the urge to curse. Her call came through. "Leo, I'm downstairs. Can we meet?" I didn't plan to go, but she persistently called many times. "If you don't come down, I'll just wait here." She was in her car, smoking, one hand holding her head. Upon seeing me, she leaned over and opened the passenger side door. I looked at her coldly. "Get to the point. Cut the crap." She paused, then gave a bitter smile, rubbing her temples. She pushed the car door open, got out, took a deep drag from her cigarette, then tossed it away. She took a deep breath and looked straight at me. "Do you still blame me for not making our relationship public?" I ignored her. This wasn't the time to talk about that. She went on talking. "Marcus's father's medical projects need a lot of funding. A few years ago, when she was just a senior doctor, she got deeply involved. She used her position at the hospital to connect Calvin with pharmaceutical companies. In return, Calvin used his contacts and research to help her climb the ladder." She lowered her head. "The only mistake I made was letting Marcus into the hospital." She never guessed that a young, flamboyant doctor would fall for her so hard. Calvin saw everything clearly and subtly pushed things along. Alara let out a bitter laugh, leaning against the car, not daring to look at me. I kept it a secret because I never wanted things to get this far. She said ever since our relationship was suddenly exposed, Calvin had been pressuring her. "I don't want a divorce, but you're pushing me. They're pushing me, too." She mumbled like she was the only innocent one now. "I had to sign the papers, and I had to marry him." Her face darkened, her smile more painful than a tear. "That's why I say love is useless. Leo, love is nothing in the face of all these tangled interests." I stared at her, feeling more disappointed in her than ever before. "Alara, you're pathetic." As I turned away, she tried in vain to grab my arm. But before she could touch me, her hand dropped weakly. I was woken up by Sam's phone call in the morning. He sounded unusually excited. "Leo, I'm at the wedding." I frowned, not really in the mood to hear him. "Alara didn't show up. I don't think she's coming." He yelled for me to turn on the TV to watch the news. After hanging up, he sent me dozens of photos from the wedding. The TV blared with noise. "The former finance director of the city hospital has officially accused the hospital's director, Alara, of using her position to profit others in drug procurement, fund allocations, taking huge kickbacks, and misusing funds for fake data in drug experiments." I looked at the pictures in the chat box. Marcus in his tux, looking back in a panic. The place was in chaos. His father seemed tense as he was taken away. Flower petals and ribbons were scattered everywhere. I heard Alara was taken away while in her wedding dress. I thought back to her feeling lost and helpless outside my building just a few hours earlier. Perhaps she already had a sense of what was coming. I gathered myself, splashed cold water on my face, and headed to work. Mr. Harrison sat in the lounge chair, soaking up the sun. Hearing my footsteps, he opened his eyes. "Seen the news?" I nodded and handed him his medication. For once, he took it without fuss. "Someone's coming for me soon. Can you hold them off?" He said it casually, like he knew they were coming. Before noon, Marcus rushed in. He had changed into a regular suit that didn't match his sneakers. Seeing me, his eyes turned cold, and he raised his hand, ready to storm in. I stopped him. "Mr. Harrison isn't seeing anyone today." He glared at me. "I have to see him." He was acting tough, but his eyes were red, brimming with tears. I sighed. "Don't make me call security." His shoulders slumped, and he let go. "Leo, only Mr. Harrison can save her and my dad." He wouldn't beg, but the desperation was written all over him. I pushed him out, my face cold. "No one can save her. Don't waste your energy." When things fall apart, people in key positions offered confessions willingly. Alara's crimes were stacking up, but she wouldn't say a word. Calvin's involvement dragged Marcus down quickly, too. Sam mentioned it on the phone, clearly concerned. "They say even a tiger won't eat its cubs, but Marcus's dad threw everything on him." He said Marcus had been looking uneasy, running around. In the end, he was taken away straight from the clinic. Apparently, his dad confessed that Marcus's thesis was fake, and the clinical fraud in the research was all his doing. I knew once these things were investigated, the truth would come out. Calvin was just trying to delay the investigation. Sam scoffed. Even Chloe says the old professor is just buying time for his contacts. But with the whole system collapsing, who'd dare get involved? Mr. Harrison's big birthday party was over half a month later. During the party, someone offered me a position at the hospital. I politely declined with a smile. Mr. Harrison turned serious. "Why didn't you take such a good opportunity?" I told him I'd already promised Chloe. She found it really stifling at the state hospital and wanted to start her own practice. Mr. Harrison paused for a moment. "If she's going to start her own thing, you should give it a shot." A few months later, I said goodbye to Mr. Harrison. With the decent earnings I made there, I partnered up with Chloe. Everything was starting from scratch. Sam came bursting in, all excited. "Reporting for duty!" The details of Ilara's case were becoming clear, and she asked to see me. Chloe gave my shoulder a pat. "Don't be shy. Laugh out loud when you're there." In the meeting room, I could barely recognize her. She had lost so much weight, her cheeks were sunken, and her hair was mostly gray. Not even 40, she looked as though she had aged overnight. She glanced up at me slightly, then quickly looked away, feeling guilty. "I thought you wouldn't want to see me." I pulled out a chair to sit down, looking at her calmly. At that moment, I really wanted to ask her if it was all worth it. But I didn't. I just gave a light chuckle. Our last meeting in this life. Her shoulders shrank, and she forced a smile. Not that dramatic, maybe another decade or so. I stopped smiling. "To me, it's as if you're gone." Her eyes darted towards me in panic, her lips trembled slightly. My parents, if you have time, please take care of them. After all, we were married for so many years." I shook my head. "No time. You reap what you sow." She lowered her head weakly. "Leo, I know you hate me." Hate? During the years we were together, maybe I did hate her. But after experiencing those 4 minutes of life and death, I'd let go of all feelings towards her. No love, no hate. I was facing her without any weight. "You shouldn't have asked me here. I just think you deserve it." No sympathy, no pity. Sure, during our years of love, there were countless promises and dreams for the future. But at that moment of finality, it was all dust to dust. It seemed only then that she completely crumbled. She slumped in the chair, her head deeply buried. "Leo, you're not me. You can't understand my circumstances." I couldn't help but laugh. "Ilara, there are thousands of paths in life, and you chose what you thought was a shortcut." Her hands trembled slightly, her voice shaking. "But my feelings for you were always real." I got up, not wanting to look at her anymore. As you said, feelings are useless. A few years later, Chloe's hospital was gaining some fame in the city. As a partner, I spent most of my time advancing my studies. She'd call me now and then, never forgetting to slyly add, "You're so diligent. Not planning to jump ship, are you?" I'd laugh and close my book, telling her to stop daydreaming. "I'm waiting for my dividends." Somehow, in one of our chats, she hesitated and said, "Have you heard? Ilara's dead." My hand holding the phone paused, and I couldn't picture her face anymore. Chloe said maybe those years in prison wore her down. She sharpened a toothbrush, opened her own artery. When Mr. Harrison told me, it sent chills down my spine. She was ruthless with herself. I couldn't picture the scene. I just felt her news was like hearing from a different lifetime. Chloe kept asking, "Marcus still has a couple of years left, right?" I didn't respond. "Let's hang up. You're talking about irrelevant people. She gave a wry smile. It just came to mind, so I mentioned it. Hey, when? Are you coming back? I hung up and looked out the library window. Willow branches swayed in the wind, reminding me of the chimes moved by the breeze back then. The distant snowy mountains seemed forever etched in my memory, but that state of mind was long forgotten. Those few minutes between life and death and that rare vacation felt like intervals in my life. Leaving the hopelessness behind completely allowed me to move forward with ease.